Hey everybody, welcome back to throttlegrotto. So this week's episode I'm pretty excited about. I have here in packaging some windows I ordered. I ordered them from a company on Facebook called Frui's Shop, and I'll put the link below in the description so you guys can check it out. But why I'm excited about this is for many years, rabbits never came with pop-out windows. And for many years, the only game in town was Happich. And they're horribly expensive, like $1,200 if you can find them new. And there's a couple companies that are making them now. So smallbumpers.mx makes them, and Frui's Shop, and I don't know of any other companies that are going through the effort of actually making pop-out windows for rabbits. So what are pop-outs? So in a two-door hatchback, the rear windows are fixed, and on some cars, like if you think of like a minivan, the rear windows pivot and open up. So some hatchbacks that were made in the 80s, 90s actually came with pop-outs, but rabbits never did. So I bought these, paid full price for them, full disclosure, no deals, no nothing. But it seems like a small company, so I'm going to help them out. I'm going to do an installation and review in this episode of throttlegrotto. So stay tuned, and we are going to unpackage these. I haven't even opened them. I just as they came from the postman is how you see them here, just still in the packaging. So we're going to open them up together, check it out, see what I have. I don't hear any glass tinkling noises, so that's good. So that will be today's episode. We'll be unboxing these and install them in the Rabbit. So the first thing we should do is open these up and take a look, see what we have. So the first thing I notice here is they've labeled it that says open. So we're going to very carefully cut this plastic wrap. Send these. Oh, very cool. So I got a cool rabbit keychain and a little VW keychain. I can't read Spanish, but it basically says gracias por tu compra, which is probably thank you for your order. And here we go. So Frui's Shop, looks like they do a whole bunch of different products. And if you want some keychains, they probably sell those too. So that's kind of cool. It's always nice to get a little surprise in your box. Alright, so looks like we have hardware, windows, some seals, which you got to have for the windows, and instructions. And the instructions are in Spanish. And for a beetle. But I think these should be pretty straightforward to install. So let's take a look at the hardware. So we've got these. I'll just take it out because we're going to take it out of the package anyway. So these are your mounts that go in the rear, and then they have a locking thing so you can set how far you want it to come open. And then these appear to be the front hinges. Which I'm going to compare against the instructions. I know it's a very non-cool thing to do to look at the instructions, but so one thing, I got through the instructions. One thing before you get started is it's a good idea to go get some 3/16 rivets, because that is how the hardware installs to the body. So first thing we'll do is I'm going to grab so I'm just going to cut the end. It's just got a metal innard and looks like it was cut quickly, which isn't a big deal, but so and this is really easy to install. It should already be cut to the right length, but we'll find out. So it's always a good idea to leave the seam at the bottom when you're putting in a weather stripping, so that way if you have it at the top it'll collect water. So I'll just start down here in the center. And this puffy side goes out. So there's nothing gee whiz scientific about this, other than making sure you have a little mallet to tap this stuff down. So if you have a rubber hammer or a soft hammer or something, it's a good idea to just kind of work it down as you go. So it looks like there's extra seal there that we can cut, so that's nice. And I might try to peel this back a little bit more, see if I can get it just a little bit more into this corner. Now we're just going to cut the weather stripping. So I just used a box knife to cut the weather stripping up until I got to that metal. And I just used the side cutters to cut the rest of it. So there we go. That is the window seal put into place. So we'll move on to the next step. So the next thing to do is to prep the window, which came prepped in plenty of bubble wrap, by the way, is to prep the window for the hardware. So these bolts go this way through the window, and they use a square-headed, or I guess it's a carriage bolt with a square taper on it to help seal up that gasket there. Little gasket on the back side, and then this is just going to go in there like that. And once I have them in, I will probably use some Loctite on these. The last thing you want is your window coming out when you're bouncing down the road. But all of the hardware is packaged pretty well. It's all individually sealed, so we're just going to put these in, because next thing we have to do is put the window into the car. And mark where we're going to drill for the front hinges, which are these metal, they look to be stainless steel things that I'm putting on. I guess I could just turn this over. That's not a good idea. So they offer these in two different finishes. One is the Tintex, which at first I thought maybe was a something like a different way to talk about a tinted window. And then they have clear, which is perfectly clear glass. So I got these in the Tintex version, which is, it has kind of a green, like a factory style tint to it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just got a very light tint to it compared to what a stock window would be. In fact, I'm just going to grab some Loctite. I want to put a little bit of Loctite on these right now while I have them out and accessible. So just a little bit of blue Loctite on there. And if you haven't tried one of these Loctite sticks, they are awesome. And we're only using blue Loctite, so we're not getting real cosmic with this. It's just enough to keep like vibrations and stuff from loosening these up, which is it's a very real possibility when they're open and vibrating and everything else. So all right, next step, set them in the car. Okay, so going through the instructions, what they say is to use some tape to hold the window in position while you mark inside the car where your hinges need to be drilled. So one of the things I've noticed about this kit is that the hinges don't quite line up, like in my visual, like cursory inspection, just kind of holding them up. And the other thing I've noticed is that blue tape isn't always the most reliable product for holding things up in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of layers of this quick release tape. This is like a painter's tape, like a 3M blue tape, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to use my trusty Gorilla Tape. A couple of good stripes of this. So I'm just taping it to the, I got a little bit on the window there, but that's okay. Some adhesive remover, I'll clean that up later. But this ideally will be a lot more secure than just a couple pieces of tape. Okay, so the first thing I've done with this kit, and it seems like our tape is holding, so that's good, is these. Whoa, that's always a little disconcerting. So it looks like my window needs to come up a little bit, and it needs to go this way a little bit because we are a little too far back. And if I'm looking at how these are lining up inside, I should be able to get you guys inside here pretty easily. So it looks like they're going to need a little bit of bending once we get them in place to line up exactly where we want them. And then, hopefully I'm not getting you guys too close here. And then we'll have to tap these down from the inside and then drill a couple holes, rivet those, and then the window will be in position. And then just mounting the rear hardware. Gets mounted up here in the back. Doesn't necessarily use this upper... I'm terrible at pointing out stuff today. Doesn't necessarily use this upper seatbelt mount, but we may modify that so that just bolts in. So first things first, let's get these front ones mounted. Alright, so I've made my marks inside. I'm going to take the window off so I can just reach inside, drill the 2 little holes for the rivets, and we'll put the window back in and rivet the hinges in place. And I think I'm going to have to center punch these so that my drill bit doesn't slide around. Okay, so the front hinges are installed. You can see that when you have it closed, you definitely want to try to make sure that when you install it that you compress this gasket at the front. And you may have to think with stuff a little bit to get it to line up to where it does that. But that way, when you have this window closed, you're compressing the seal all the way around the window. That way you don't get any air leaks or water leaks. And installing the rear. So here is the bracket that attaches this window. Let's see if I can get this here to show you guys with the light that I have. So that is the metal bracket that comes off the part that bolts through the window, and then there's a bolt and a nylock nut that attach that to the, I'm not sure what you'd call that, but this has a little bit of movement in it until you tighten it up. Well, here's one of the things that I'm not a real big fan of. This bracket has, see, you can see here, has 3 holes. 3 holes for the rivets or screws, like you're going to use self-tapping screws. However, you're going to attach this to the body. The contour of this piece matches up pretty well with the inside of the body right here. But one of the things that I really don't like about this, and I know I'm nitpicking and I know this is like minor, but this bracket could have easily been made to use this rear seat belt mount. Just would have had a bigger hole and made to cover this. You could have threaded right into the body there, really secure. No chance of rivets breaking or having to put self-tapping screws into your car or any of that type of stuff. So minor thing, but if you like the small details and you don't want to have anything like in your A-pillar like that, I would suggest holding onto this bracket, which is the same thing I'm going to do, hold on to this bracket until you get some junkyard parts and modify this part, replace this metal piece, and make it work with a like a factory style latch. It'll be a much cleaner installation. And if you want to get really fancy, you can find some power stuff from like a minivan and make them power rear pop-out windows, which that's might end up be the direction I'm going. So all in all, my review of these windows, the glass is cut right, most of the hardware fits pretty good. The stainless hinges on the front, again, I'm nitpicking, but I'd like to see them fit a little bit better. The company that makes these does a lot of stuff for bugs. The instructions were for bugs. It's probably something that they made for bugs, and it works in here, but again, nitpicking. It's for a quarter of the price of a set of Happich windows. I've got pop-outs that are in the car. So that back out of the car here. So that is all for today. I'm going to leave you guys and install the other window, and then probably head to the junkyard and see what I can come up with for hardware, and see if I can make this setup a little bit better for not a lot of money. So I apologize for the boominess of this video. I tried to turn down the bass when I edit it to, I think it's because of the tripod I'm using with the GoPro. It's just picking up any vibration, whether it's on the workbench, it's picking up vibration when I have it sitting in the car. I actually had to refilm the ending of this episode because it got so filled with bass and boomy and just taking over the audio that I just said, I'm just going to redo this part of it and hand hold the GoPro to see if it took it away. So I've got some troubleshooting to do on that as well. Hopefully before the next episode I can figure out how to make the audio less boomy. So that's it. Pop-outs are in. We've got a little bit more work to do to make them functional, but all in all, Frui's shop makes a good product. It's well packaged. It showed up not broken. And I think with a little bit of modification on your end, you'd have a product that you'd be pretty happy with. So until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff underneath. I'll put the link to Frui's shop and his Facebook page if you're interested in contacting him about getting some of these windows for your Rabbit or Golf or whatever. And that's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, get out there and work on something.